Yahal Bashim Yashai Brakatham, Yahal Shmalata Bashim Yashai. This is the Feast of Purim opening, day one of the Feast of Purim. The Feast of Purim, as you know, when you read the Bible, it consists of 2 days. Today we're going to be focusing on the history of the Feast of Purim, why there is what we have known as a Feast of Purim. In just a second. Hold on. Like if I could be heard, remember you got to set the mic to this. You know in the settings, you got to put the thing. It's this wide. Can you hear it? Can we be heard? Say, go ahead, talk. Does it sound? Does it sound? How does it sound? Huh? Okay. Huh? What's that noise? Talk. What's that noise? You heard that? Is it like a? You hear that? Hold on. Okay, let's try that again. Go ahead, talk, Isazon.
Testing.
Nah, that's horrible. Damn.
Every time you touch the back, it makes that sound. So, but when you leave it alone, it doesn't make a sound.
You know what? We ain't gonna miss that. We ain't gonna miss that. Not today. Switch it up. Testing. Let me know how it sounds. Oh, it's like I'm supposed to be talking. Testing. Not cool.
I just want to say something.
Testing. That's cool. That's good. We'll fix that later on.
Yeah, you can hear I just got me.
You hear me? Okay. All right. Yeah, you're just going to read loud, all right?
Concept.
All right. So today is the Feast of Purim. Get the Most High hand, all right? Most High hand. Before we touch on the history of the Feast of Purim, we're going to go over a couple scriptures. First, we're going to read, because of course, there's a formula to understanding the Bible. We're going to get that first. Let me get Proverbs 1-7. Let me get Proverbs 1-7. You understand? Get your sword. Whatnot. Go ahead, Proverbs 1-7.
Khan. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 7.
Go ahead.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
The fear of what?
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
So, who could break that down? What does it mean, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge? Hamada? What does it mean, the fear of the Lord?
The fear fear the Lord is to obey Him, sir. Whatever commandments, whatever all His laws. You know what I'm saying? And the way you fear Him is by obeying Him, because otherwise He's going to punish you with a judgment.
That's true. Okay, you said it, but you didn't say it. What does it mean to fear the Lord? Go ahead, sis.
Is it to do His commandments?
Okay, that's true. But what does it mean to fear the Lord? What does it mean to fear? All right, John.
Slag, sir, if I may, to obey.
Not necessarily. Not what I'm looking for. To be afraid. You're afraid of the Most High. You're afraid of what the consequences will be if you break His law, statutes, and commandments. Right or wrong?
Right.
You should be. And that's wisdom.
Right.
You understand? Like when you go about your daily life, everyday life, and Satan throwing things at you to make you do the wrong thing, you have to choose the right way. But why do you not choose the wrong way? Why do you not do the action that you know is forbidden by God? Why? Go ahead.
Because you fear Him, sir.
Yes.
Because you are afraid of the
Exactly.
punishment.
Give him a hand, right? Because you're afraid of, listen, what are you're scared of, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I read about that power in the Bible who opened the earth on rebellious Israelites, who split the Red Sea and closed it on our enemies, the God that flooded the entire planet, or that flooded earth, I'm afraid of that power. I'm afraid of that God. So because He said, thou shalt not steal, guess what I'm not going to do? Be a thief. Because He said, thou shalt not lay with thy neighbor's wife, guess what I'm not going to do? Be an adulterer. You understand? And that's the beauty of being in the truth. That's the beauty of knowing the truth. It's telling you in the book of Ezra that we got to observe the opportunity, and that we're blessed to know that the things that please the Most High and Yahweh Shai. You understand? I just want to touch on that. Give me Psalms 119, verse 104. Psalms 119, verse 104. Come out. If you want, you can pull precepts too.
Come on, sir.
You understand? Go ahead.
So 119 and 4, sir?
Mm-hmm.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 4. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently.
Read it. No, Psalms 119, verse 104. Go ahead.
I said verse 1.
Psalms 119, verse 104.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 104.
Uh-huh.
Through thy precepts I get understanding.
Right. How do you get understanding of the Bible? Through thy precepts I get understanding. You understand? Right. Through thy precepts. What are the precepts? These scriptures. Isaiah 28:10. Let's get it. Coming down. Help. Let's pull these precepts too. I'm going to be going back and forth before we go into the history, because there's a formula to understanding this Bible. You understand? Look at Crowd Shot. Get up there. Look at armbands on. Look at it. The past officer test look like a whole new brother. Look at that. No sweat. No sweat. Right? Give me where we at?
Right now we're at the book of Psalms, chapter 119.
Just read out loud.
Just read out loud.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 104.
Uh-huh.
Through thy precepts I get understanding.
Uh-huh. Therefore
I hate every false way.
Uh-huh. Now, how do you indicate a false way? We know that, for example, celebrating Valentine's Day is a false way. We know that celebrating Christmas is a false way. Why and how can we determine a false way? Who can tell me? Ashkur.
When it doesn't align with the Bible or with the law.
That is true. That's true. But not the answer I was looking for. That's very true. You're correct. You're not wrong. Right?
So like, what's the question again? How does it?
Read the precept again.
Khan. The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 104.
Uh-huh.
Through thy precepts
Uh-huh.
I get understanding.
Uh-huh.
Therefore I hate every false way.
Now, how do you determine a way is false? How do you know that Christ being white is false? Hamada?
Because that's not what is recorded in the Bible. The precept in the Bible.
You hot. You own it. You own it.
Through the precepts, meaning the scriptures.
There it is there. Give the brother a hand. Through thy precepts I get understanding. There's no precepts to support Christ being a white man.
Right.
There's no precepts to support Valentine's Day. Right, that's correct. I see you online. That's absolutely correct. Through the precepts of the Bible. That's how you know what is true or not true. You understand? Now, even down to these so-called or these holidays, these holidays, Valentine's Day, Christmas. People ask you why you don't celebrate it, because it's not in the Bible to celebrate it. Everything we do is biblical. I live a biblical life. You know how people be like, "Oh, that was back in biblical times." No, this is biblical times. You understand? These are biblical times. You get my point? So I just want to show you that there's a formula to understanding this Bible. If you're a Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian, you should be following the Feast of Purim. If you weren't able to make it to, a nearby school and feast with your brothers and sisters, still be in the spirit of the Feast of Purim. Put class on, cook, whatnot. You understand? And just read, review the Book of Esther. We're gonna summarize it. Before we go there, right? Go to Isaiah 25. Isaiah 25. And it's important that we go over the Feast of Purim and its meaning. And I'm not going to give it away, but there's a few things you can get from reviewing the Book of Esther that I think that will be very beneficial to your walk and faith in this truth. Go ahead.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 5.
Read.
O house of Jacob.
Who?
Of Jacob.
House of Jacob. Read on. What's in the house? Family. Them tribes, we family. You understand? Them Blacks, Hispanics. Guatemalans are your brother. You know that, right, Kramasha? You know Salvadorans are your brother, Commodore. You know Ephraim, Puerto Ricans are your brothers and sisters. You understand? Seminole Indians. You understand? Dominicans.
Right.
We are the house of Jacob. Read.
Khan. O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord.
And let us do what?
And let us walk in the light of the Lord.
The Bible says, let us walk in the light of the Lord. What is the light? What is the light, Karamashai?
The law.
Okay.
His word.
His words? Let me know. Is it his law? Is it his words? What you think? Both? Which one is it?
I believe his word.
Okay. Let's get Proverbs 6:23.
Khan.
And you're not wrong. You're absolutely correct. But remember, how do we get understanding of this Bible? Get that brother a hand. He stuck with what we've been going over. That's the point. You understand? Psalms, Proverbs 6:23.
Khan. This is the book of Proverbs.
You got a Kramashat?
Come.
Read that. Hold that. What would you got? Go ahead, Kramashat. Proverbs 6:23.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 23. For the commandment.
For the what?
For the commandment.
For the commandment, read.
Is a lamp.
Is a what?
Is a lamp.
Is a lamp. Read on.
And the law.
And the what?
And the law.
And the law. Hold on, Najazan. And the law. Go ahead, Kra.
Is light.
Is what?
Is light.
Read that in Isaiah 25.
Khan. The book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 5.
Read.
O house of Jacob,
Oh, who?
O house of Jacob,
Read.
come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord.
Let us walk in the light of the Lord. You see that? What's the light? Read it again.
Come. The book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light.
Right. Now, if the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments is light, what's the opposite of light? What's the opposite of light?
Light is there, darkness.
Darkness. Right? Get Ephesians 5 and 8. Ephesians 5 and 8. If you're not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, if you're not attending these feast days, and for the record, you know that this isn't a holy day, but it is a feast day. It's a memorial. Or sorry, okay, yeah, it's a memorial. You understand? It's not a Leviticus 23rd chapter listed holy day. You understand? But this is something we keep in memorial of what happened, and we're going to review tonight what happened. Where you at?
The book of Ephesians.
Ephesians 5 and 8.
Come. This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 8.
Come on, get Baruch.
Come.
Go ahead.
For ye were sometimes darkness.
For you were in darkness. Read on.
But now are ye light.
Woo! You hear that, right? Now you in the light. Why? Why are you in the light? Because you follow God's commandments. Like, don't think it's a light thing that you know right from wrong. The Lord revealed that to you. You get my point? You know it's wrong to get high. You know it's wrong. You know it's wrong to sleep with another man's woman. You know it's wrong. And it's to your benefit that you choose the right decision every day, because every day you're tempted to do something wrong. Satan wants you to fall. You get my point? So you take the opportunity to not be in the darkness no more. Now you're in the light. Right? We're gonna look at some examples in the scriptures of brothers who weren't in darkness but were in the light. What I want you to do is get Baruch 4 and 1.
Come.
Then we're gonna jump off in this history, right?
The book of Baruch, chapter 4, verse 1.
Read.
This is the book of the commandments of God.
This is the book of the commandments of God. Read on.
And the law.
And the what?
The law.
Read.
That endureth forever.
The law. I thought the law was done away with. The law that endureth for how long?
Ever.
Forever. Read on.
All they that keep it.
All they that keep it what?
Shall come to life.
Shall come to life. Romans 6 and 23. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is through Yahushua Mashiach. Eternal life. You hear that? Go.
Come. But such as leave it shall die.
But such as leave it shall die. Keep going.
Verse 2. Turn thee, O Jacob.
Turn thee, O who?
Jacob.
Sounded very familiar to what Isaiah was saying. Keep going.
And take hold of it.
And take hold of it. Read on.
Walk in the presence of the light thereof.
Walk in the presence of the what?
The light thereof.
Walk in the presence of the light thereof. You see that? That's how you know black people wrote the Bible. You get my point? Like they're giving you, like, when you're in darkness, can you see? You understand? You don't know, like, you walking, you're gonna keep running into stuff. But when the room is illuminated with light, it's metaphoric. These are all allegorical, so you can understand the deeper meaning behind what it really means to be in the truth. You know right from wrong. You understand? And a lot of times, when you're in the dark, like when you're in the world, you know that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Right.
You understand? Your conscience, like if you're an Israelite, when you go on that Planned Parenthood, what's that called? When you go to them abortion clinics, right? Sisters come out, they be all proud and I'm pro-choice, blah blah blah. All right, when they in the house by themselves, around that time they got that abortion every year, brother, they having depressive episodes.
Right.
You understand? They're having, and that's a judgment. You understand? They're crying and thinking about they can just relive the moment they got that baby aborted. But when you come to do the truth, You free from that. You free from anything you've ever done. You free from all the weed you sold, all the abortions you had, all the bodies you done laid down. You free from all of that. Give your house shot hand. You understand? Because if it wasn't for the Most High sending your house shot down here, none of us would be in this class about to or did learn or ever learn about the Feast of Purim. Right. You wouldn't be around like-minded brothers and sisters who want to serve God. You think about anything or anywhere you could be right now. You in here with brothers with Hebrew on the wall. You understand? Hebrew on the wall, for crying out loud. Hebrew told me 15 years ago, I'll be praying in Hebrew with blacks and Hispanics and no one fighting. You understand? Everybody controlling themselves and being disciplined and being brotherly and sisterly toward another. Man, I would have called you crazy. You understand? But they call Christ crazy. So we've been over this before. Not gonna be too long-winded. We're gonna go over the Feast of Purim. Anybody have any questions? You feel free to ask throughout the class. Coming out, you want to say something?
Allah, sir.
Okay, no sweat. Let's get the book of Esther. Let's get the book of Esther.
Khan. This is the book of Esther.
Chapter 1, verse 1.
Chapter 1, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia. Over 127 provinces.
Right.
That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom.
Now, who is Ahasuerus? We went over this before. Who is Ahasuerus? Go ahead.
He was the Persians, the Medes, Persian king.
He was a Persian king. That is correct. But Ahasuerus, there's another name for him in history. You look up. We called him Ahasuerus, but his name, he's commonly respected as another name in history. You can go Google this name and you can read about him, right? Who is Ahasuerus? So this is important for you to understand the time, the setting of, what we're about to read and what it was like back then. Did they have cell phones? What year is this? You get my point. Who is Ahasuerus? Ahasuerus is the Persian king Xerxes. Xerxes, Xerxes, the first. Xerxes the first, right? Now, who's seen the movie 300?
I watched a little bit of it.
You know what I'm talking about? When he was like, "This is Sparta."
Come.
That Xerxes, right? The main dude. That's based on the Battle of Thermopylae. That's a real event. You understand? Of course, they put Hollywood in it, but that's a real event. You understand? And Xerxes was a real person. He's one of the most wealthiest kings in history. And he had one of the largest empires known to man, especially during that time. Like he thought he ran the world, the known world at the time he ran it. You understand? So let's keep reading.
Khan, which was in Shushan the palace.
Right? Shushan was the capital. Go ahead.
Verse 3. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants.
Right.
The power of Persia and Media.
Right. The power of Persia and Media. Now, the feast he's keeping is not the feast we keeping. Be very clear on that. These kings, of course, we're talking about a king that had Israelites and slaves. So, he was wealthy. This wasn't no walking around in sackcloth like they be portraying the movie. Like, this dude was filthy rich. Xerxes was a Persian, a filthy. Now, who can tell me who the Persians are today? So you can see who we're talking about. Who are the Persians in the Bible? Because every nation on this planet, every nationality, ethnicity, race, however you want to title it, is identified in the Bible. Who is Judah?
Negro.
The so-called Negroes, right? Who are the Edomites?
So-called white man.
So-called white man. Now, who are the Persians today? Which would be the Elamites. Go ahead.
The Iranians, sir.
Okay, how do you know that? You saying that the Persians back then. So this is what you're saying. When I read about Xerxes and the Persians and the Medes, I should imagine Iranians. Just like when I read the Bible, when I read about Christ and the disciples, I imagine black men, black and Hispanic and Native American men, right? That's what I imagine. You telling me when I read about Xerxes and the Persians that I should imagine Iranians?
The Iranians today would be the Persians. So.
How do we know that? Look up when Persia changed its name. Watch this. When did Persia change its name? When did Persia change its name? Go ahead, read it aloud.
It says, this is CBS News. It says, Salakia. It says 1935.
Speak louder, right?
1935. It says, for most of history, the tract of land now called Iran.
What?
the tract of land now called Iran was known as Persia.
There it is. So your modern day Iranians are your ancient Persians. You understand? Xerxes, look up an image. You got your phone, look up Xerxes. There's a bunch of statues of him, and so you get an idea. And he looks Iranian. Look it up. You get my point? You look like them Arabs, or them, it's like it. Them Elamites with them big beards, and that's them. You understand? So keep reading. Actually go from Esther 1 through 4. Go to Esther chapter 1, verse 9. Give that brother that belt. See if he can fit it.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 9. Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house.
So Xerxes had a feast going on for him, right? And then his wife, the queen Vashti, had a feast going on for her and the women, right? Read on.
Which belonged to King Ahasuerus. Verse 10.
Keep going.
On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded
Come on, lock in. What is it?
Mehuman?
What does it say?
Mehuman.
Just do your best. Salakia.
Salakia, sir.
You good?
Mehaman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abaktha, Zathar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king.
Right.
Keep going, sir.
Keep going.
Verse 11. To bring Vashti the queen before the king.
So the king had men set up to go bring his wife to him, right? He's drinking, he in a good mood, he's at a feast. He's the king of Persia. Keep going.
Khan. To bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal. To show the people and the princes her beauty.
Right.
For she was fair to look on.
Right. So Vashti was a beautiful woman. And he wanted to show off his woman. Read on.
But the queen Vashti refused to come.
But she did what?
Vashti refused to come.
This woman, his wife, the queen of Persia at the time, refused to come to the king. You understand? Read on.
At the king's commandment.
At the king's commandment. Keep going.
By his chamberlains.
Keep going.
Therefore was the king very wroth.
The king was upset that his wife didn't come to him. Read on.
And
you gotta understand how disrespectful that is. Like you ever tell your woman to make you a sandwich, and she don't? She say, "Make your own sandwich." Like you. She said, "You ever experienced that?" That was, but imagine you, king of Persia. You understand? And she like, I'm not coming to you.
Damn.
You understand what I'm saying? And the man, he like, oh man, y'all gotta see my wife. Y'all gotta see my queen, and she's beautiful, and this, that, and the third. And he waiting, he happy, and his man come back and report, and she says she ain't coming. He like embarrassed.
Come.
You understand? Right? Keep going.
Come. And his anger burned in him.
Read on.
Verse 13. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish,
right,
Mariz, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom.
Keep going.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law?
Right.
Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
Right. Keep going.
Verse 16. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes.
Now, why did they say that? Why did the king's men say he didn't only offend the king, she offended every man, every person? Why? Not you. You read it. No sweat. Why? Why did they say that? Keep going.
Come.
Hold on. That's cool. Go ahead.
Because now every sister's gonna.
Not sister.
Every woman, every wife,
right,
is gonna now feel like they have the right to do the same thing.
Get her better hand. Get her better hand. Damn right. If the queen could do it to the king of Persia, who commands armies of hundreds of thousands to march this direction, and they march no hesitation. If she could tell him no, shoot, make your own sandwich. You understand? Keep going.
Come. Verse 17. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women.
You hear that, right? Keep going.
So that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes. When it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
Keep going.
Verse 18. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen.
Right.
Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
Right. What verse you at?
Right now, I just went to verse 19. So.
Keep going. Read to verse 20. Read 20 and then that's it on that.
Come. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment before him, from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
You hear that, right? So what was the solution that these men came up with for the king, or presented before the king? What was the solution? What was the solution, Akin?
If I could.
Go ahead.
I think if I wasn't fully paying attention, but they're gonna find a better woman to replace her, a better woman, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're gonna find what they gonna do now, Desire?
Find a better wife for him, sir?
Find a better woman,
a
woman who will listen. You understand? That's the counsel they had, and it was to do what? Which I get. Salakia. It wasn't my empire, but I get it. That's what Ahab should have did. He should have never married Jezebel in the first damn place. You understand? Remember that sister that came up to the cat? What about Jezebel? What about Jezebel? Right? Jezebel, he should have stopped dealing with her. Salakia. because she said he should have got him another ring. I said put it away, but I mean he married her. But you know, actually Salakia. She was doing some evil stuff. Jezebel, evil woman. She was a Hamite. You understand? And for some reason, them brothers back then, something about Ham that was just, I don't know. For the love of me, I can't understand it. But Salakia. You see them Hamites, brother? Anyways, but that's what he did. So now, from there, are we all clear on what's going on so far? This is around the year. It's like this is like 400 BC, that time period, like 400, anywhere from between 400 to 500. In the middle of that, that's this time setting, right, where the Book of Esther is being, is happening, so to speak. Go ahead.
Come.
Esther 2:1.
Skip down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
The Book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done.
Why was the king's wrath appeased? Because the counsel he just received. Go ahead.
And what was decreed against her. Verse 2. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king.
Let there be fair young virgins, right? What does that mean? We got to explain that. What does that mean? What's a fair young virgin? Ashkur.
So I let the brothers go ahead.
Malakma.
Beautiful young woman.
Close. Karamashak.
I was gonna say a beautiful woman for America.
Get that brother a hand. Both of y'all were absolutely correct. That's what I wanted, Malakma. A woman of marriageable age. A woman that is mature. You understand? Not just because she get her menstrual. That's not a woman. You get my point? A woman, she's fully developed up here. You get my point? Keep reading. So he's like, let's have a damn near, what they call it, like a display of women. Present before me women. Right? Go ahead.
The Book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 3. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shishon the palace.
Right.
To the house of the...
In his what? In his house?
To the house of the women.
No, in the palace. Listen, I can't even stress it enough. Go look up the history on these palaces these heathens had. There was I mean, it wasn't downtown LA. It was like, they was living luxuriously. Keep reading.
Khan. To the house of the women, unto the custody of Hej, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women.
Keep going.
And let their things for purification be given them.
Keep going.
Verse 4. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti.
Now the woman that we choose, that's gonna be the next queen that sits next to Xerxes. Now, mind you, these are not Israelite customs. Israelites don't have queens. You understand? Don't say Shalom queen. We don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You understand? Princess is more formal. It's more, that's more correct. You understand why? Sarah was what? What does Sarah mean? Okay, what was Sarah's name before it was Sarah? Sarai, which meant what?
It meant Sarai. I do not know, sir.
No sweat. My princess. Right? And then her change was named to Sarah, which means what? Princess. Are the sisters not the daughter? Hold on. They don't believe me. Hold on. What's that scripture? Hold on, bear with me. Good night. Come on, Google. Bear with me. Go to. Okay, that's what it is. 1 Peter 3:6. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are. You see that? And she was a princess, which means that you Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian women are to do everything that is becoming of a what? Get a better head. You understand? So make my sandwich. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Right? I'm just playing. It's like you. I'm joking. I'm not. But go ahead.
It's like the book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 5.
Of course, sisters have much bigger roles than that. I'm joking. Relax. Go ahead.
Khan. Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai.
Now we're being introduced to a brother by the name of Mordecai. Read on.
The son of Jair.
The son of who?
The son of Jair.
Read.
The son of Shammai. The son of Kish. A Benjamite.
What tribe was Mordecai? Malachma.
Benjamin.
He was but wait, he's a Jew. I thought that only from the tribe of Judah you were a Jew.
Right.
Go ahead.
He was from the southern kingdom.
Which is known as what?
Jews.
Which is known as what though? The house of Judah.
Judah.
You understand? The house of Judah were known as Jews. You understand? And the 10 tribes were known as the house of Israel.
Right.
You understand? Go ahead. But we're all Israel. We read about that history. You know, we get that. Keep going.
Khan, sir. Verse 6. Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity, which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah.
Right. Keep going.
Whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away.
Right. So this brother been in under the Persians, going back to when Jeconiah was taken by Nebuchadnezzar, not too far back. Right. Keep going.
Khan. Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah.
Hadassah.
Hadassah. That is Esther.
So Hadassah and Esther are sisters, right? You sure? How you figure?
It says that is Esther.
Okay, I'm just making sure. So Hadassah, her name really is Hadassah, but she's called Esther in this kingdom. Just like Daniel was called what? Daniela was what? He was called what? Starts with a B.
About the Shiraz.
Belshazzar.
Okay,
Khan, right? Like you're a commodore, but the slave call you Mike Jones. You get my point? Keep going.
Khan, sir. Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther.
Now Mordecai brought up this sister, right? Keep going.
His uncle's daughter.
This was his uncle's daughter. Read on.
For she had neither father nor mother. And the maid was fair and beautiful.
This is a beautiful sister. You understand? Keep going.
Whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
Right. So what was the relationship between Mordecai and Esther? What was the relationship between them? Commodore?
That was his niece.
Okay. And give me more.
Um,
You see her every now and then. What did he do?
He raised her up.
He raised her.
God.
Mordecai raised Esther. Which you will learn reading the book of Esther, like the church makes the book of Esther about Esther. Right? When really it's about Mordecai. You're going to see that. Esther played a huge role. Right? But Mordecai is the center of this book. Right? Keep going.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house.
Why was Esther brought to the king's house? Why are women being brought to the king's house? And why was she brought? Imagine a young, of marriageable age sister now. Why? Go ahead, Kramersack. Why?
Because you want to have sex with her.
I mean, yeah. God, good night. Whoa. Yeah, she was beautiful. Go ahead. That brother's doing straight to the point. Go ahead. No sweat. Huh? No sweat. Go ahead.
You keep
So the reason why she's being brought before the king is because she's a beautiful woman. And remember, the whole talk of the town is who's going to be the next queen that sit next to Xerxes. Keep going.
That Esther was brought also into the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women.
Right. Keep going.
Verse 9.
Right. He was the one orchestrating, making sure everything was in order. They in a single file line and they not acting crazy and, acting out of order with no discipline before they present themselves to the king. He's making sure that these women are worth presenting before the king. And he's checking them out, looking at them, all that good stuff. Keep going. Mind you, this is not our custom. Right. These are heathens. Right? Keep going.
Verse 9. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him.
Right. The maiden is Esther, and he was, and the king Xerxes or Ahasuerus liked Esther. Out of all the women he saw, he liked Esther. Read on.
Which such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her, out of the king's house.
Keep going.
And he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women.
Right. Keep going.
What
verse?
Verse 10.
Keep going.
Verse 10. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it.
So in this captivity, Mordecai, as she was going to present herself before the king, she didn't reveal that she was a Jew. She didn't reveal that she was a Jew, right? Keep going, because at this time, it wasn't just Israelites in slavery. You understand? It was a culmination of other races, surrounding nations who were subject to the Persian Empire. Greeks, Macedonians, everybody in the known world was under the Persians and paid tribute in some fashion or another to Ahasuerus, aka Xerxes the Great. Keep reading. Go ahead.
That's heavy, sir, because for her, for her to be able to not say she's a Jew and to hide it, and they can't tell she's a Jew by appearance, shows that most likely there was Hamites, right? Was there Hamites there?
Yeah.
So they were like, that lets you know right there that
they just took over the Hamites, the Babylonians.
Okay, so my point is that lets you know that there's people that look like her who aren't Israelites.
Right.
You know what I mean? So people today say, oh, so-called black people look like Africans, so they're Israelites too. But that's a good point right there.
Yeah. Excellent. Keep going,
Verse 11. And Mordecai walked walked every day before the court of the women's house.
Right. Keep going.
To know how Esther did
Mm-hmm.
and what should become of her.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 12.
Uh-huh.
Now, when every maid's turn was come to go into King Cyrus,
Mm-hmm.
after she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh,
Mm.
and 6 months with sweet odors.
So what was this? What was the purification? How was she presenting or preparing to present herself before the king? By bathing in the kingdom's finest oils. You understand how good she must have smelled when she presented herself before the king? Keep going.
And with other things for the purifying of the women.
Uh-huh.
Verse 13.
This is a black woman, by the way. We got to get that. You ever watch some biblical movies growing up, like on TBN and all that? And we just imagine, this is a white girl. No, this is a sister with coily or, thick hair and braids under that head wrap. You understand? Keep going.
Sir. Verse 13. Then thus came every maiden unto the king.
Mm-hmm.
Whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house.
Right, keep going.
Verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women.
Uh-huh.
So the custody of Shashgaz,
Mm-hmm.
the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines, she came in unto the king no more.
Right.
Except the king delighted in her.
What verse you at?
Still on verse 14, sir. I'm about to end it.
Okay, keep going.
Except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name.
Go to verse 16.
Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth,
Mm-hmm.
in the 7th year of his reign.
Keep going.
Verse 17.
Here's the point.
And the king loved Esther above all the women.
So Esther was selected out of all the women. You understand? And the king loved Esther above all the women. Keep going.
And she obtained grace and favor in his sight.
And she obtained grace and favor in his sight. Read on.
More than all the virgins.
More than all the women that presented themselves. Read on.
So that he set the royal crown upon her head.
So that he set the royal crown upon her head. Now she's the queen of Persia. You understand? Keep going.
And made her queen instead of Vashti.
You see that, right? So summarize lightly what has transpired so far. Just so I know that we're on the same page. Coming up.
From the beginning, sir?
From the beginning. Before we continue on. So we know what's going on because it's going to get deeper. More things are going to happen. I got to make sure that everybody's, we all know what's going on.
So the Persian king gave his wife an order. She disobeyed. And then they had a council for her disobeying.
Uh-huh.
They came with the conclusion that they had to replace her.
Why they had to replace her?
Because she was disobedient.
Why? And what would that have done with the other woman in the kingdom?
Oh, so like you said, it would have the spirit of her disobeying would have gone, and they had trickled down to the women.
Keep going. You're right.
You know what I'm saying? So they had a council to replace her. They got women of a marriageable age that were young and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of them was this sister,
Hadassah or Esther.
Esther.
Uh-huh.
And you know what I mean? She
now Esther was related to who?
To Mordecai.
Mordecai. Okay, keep going.
Who raised her up.
Right.
And so like I said, she was amongst the women that were presented to the king to replace Vashti.
That's true.
She bathed herself in the finest oils of the kingdom, and her uncle Mordecai would come and check up on her.
And her sister Jessica asked, so did he divorce and throw her away, his first wife? What happened? He got rid of her. He's not Israelite. He's a Persian.
Right, he's a heathen.
He's a heathen. Like, we don't practice throwing away your women unless they, sin against you. Right? Commit adultery. That's not your woman no more. But the Persians, like, you know what I mean? They don't keep God's laws, right? Keep going. That's it. That's where we at. So Esther is now selected as the woman, right?
He put the crown on her.
Put the crown on her head. And you gotta imagine this crown is, it's not from the Dollar Tree.
Right.
You get my point? Like, this crown got all kind of gems and fine jewels on it. This is the queen, right? Back, like I said, disclaimer, it is not our customs, but this is theirs, and they set up one of our sisters in that position. And really, you're gonna see God behind all of this by the time we end this topic. Now, who's read the Bible? Who's read, I don't know, Genesis? Who's read 1 Samuel, Exodus? Another book, Jeremiah. Who's read these books? Who's read Ezra? Get in that Bible, brothers and sisters. Get in that Bible. You notice as you read, Kamada, you'll see, and the Lord caused this. And the Lord said unto this brother, do this. And the Lord stirred this up. You don't see that in Esther. Keep going though. You don't see that said the Lord in Esther. Right. But I'm going to show you something. Right?
You want me to start at verse 18?
No, go to Esther 2:21. Now let's read a little bit about Mordecai and his significance. And one of his accounts between him and the king. Esther 2:21.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh.
So remember, you got these chamberlains of the king, right? And now they're naming two of the king's chamberlains, right? Keep going.
Of those which kept the door,
right? Keep going.
Were wroth.
That was angry. Keep going.
And sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
Right. Keep going.
Verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai.
Right. Mordecai caught ear that these two men were plotting against the king. Why was they mad? It doesn't really say why they was mad, right? You can speculate on why they was mad, right? Why he get all this luxury? Yeah, why he get to be all these women presented before him, and in the movie they just got them two haters. That was them, right? Keep going.
Khan, who told it onto Esther the queen. And Esther.
So Mordecai told Esther, these two men right here, John and whatever their name was, Bigthan and them two guys, they trying to kill the king. You gotta do something about it, right? Keep going.
Khan. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name.
Right.
You going, sir?
Keep going.
Verse 23. And when inquisition was made of the matter,
right? When it was brought to the king's attention, right? Keep going.
It was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree.
These two men were hung on a tree. Now, this is critical to understanding the Feast of Purim. This is one of the heaviest points in the book of Esther. I'm trying to tell you right now. The fact that this brother Mordecai was aware that these two men were conspiring against the life of Ahasuerus, aka Xerxes, is, detrimental to understanding the book of Esther and the Feast of Purim. Remember this. So what just happened? Someone break it down. What just happened in these two verses? Go ahead, Askur.
Can the brother read it again?
Khan. 21.
21. Khan. The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
Keep going.
Verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. Verse 23. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree.
So what happened?
What happened was the two men who wanted to kill the king, or who were making a plan to kill the king found out about it because Mordecai told his niece about it. The niece, Esther, told the king hung the two men, and then I ain't trying to spoil it, but
Nah, don't spoil it. That's all I need.
All I'm gonna say is that's
He gonna spoil it anyway. Go ahead.
You're right though. That's like the pinnacle.
Yeah,
That's a pinnacle part of the whole story.
Kai, go ahead. Like before you spoil it, go ahead.
So like, seriously, not to sidebar too much, but just the fact that it mentions brothers, you know.
Speak a little louder, right?
So like, not to sidebar too much, sir, but just to mention that they were hanged on the tree.
Right.
You see where the oppressor got the idea to lynch our people from.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, they bit. Like lynchings wasn't just in the early, 1900s. They've been lynching since, rope. Go ahead, come back.
Hey, so like I was gonna say, she credited Mordecai for the plotting of the king's death.
That's key. Mordecai, keep reading. Read verse 23.
Khan. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree.
Keep going.
And it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king.
What's another word for chronicle? Like you have the book of First and Second Chronicles. What does the word chronicle mean? I score.
I'm not sure, but does it mean records?
It means record. Get that brother a hand. It was written in the records. You see that? In the king's records. And it was in his file cabinet, so to speak. Now, that's very important. Now let's go to Esther 3:1.
Khan.
This is where we introduce another man, right? And his role in the Feast of Purim. Keep going.
Khan. The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote
Haman.
Right. Promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite,
right,
and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
Right, keep going.
Verse 2, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate.
Right, now the king had a man by the name of Haman, right, who's an Agagite, which was a Macedonian, which is an Edomite. He was a white man, right? And this guy right here had a high position. He was given great power and authority from the king Xerxes, right? Keep going.
Khan.
Think of it like how a president has governors. He had, control over this territory, right? Go ahead.
Khan. Verse 2, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed.
All the king's servants bowed before Haman. That's the level this guy was on, right? Keep going.
And reverenced Haman.
Read on.
For the king had so command concerning him.
Keep going.
But Mordecai bowed not.
But Mordecai did not bow down to Haman. Read on.
Nor did him reverence.
Nor did him any reverence. He wasn't kissing his pinky ring, nothing. Right? Keep going.
Khan. Then
he didn't serve him. Right? Because Mordecai knew that this dude was a wicked dude. Read on.
Khan. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, why transgresseth thou the king's commandment?
Right.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Verse 4. Now it came to pass when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand.
Right.
For he had told them that he was a Jew. Verse 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
So Haman is angry. Why? Because when Haman comes out, everybody is kneeling, my Lord. Everybody is showing this great reverence to Haman. Mordecai posted up like, you know what I mean? I'm a Jew. I don't do all that to these heathens. Right? Keep going. All right, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's like it. So I was going to say, that's like how brothers today, they work out the slave. You know, they trying to get that promotion. Salaki, you know, they try to.
Oh, they kissing behind.
What's the term? Brown nose.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of brothers do that, you know, thinking they're going to get somewhere because they chase money and stuff, not realizing.
And then they ask you like they did, why you not doing it? Why you ain't showing reverence?
Right.
To Haman. That's Haman, dog. And these ain't only Israelites. These are other nations in the middle of everything too, because it wasn't just Israelites and Persians. You get my point? Go ahead.
Khan. The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 6.
Keep going.
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai.
Now, here's a very important thing. Because Mordecai didn't pay reverence to Haman, a man of authority in the Persian Empire, because he didn't do that, now Haman wants to kill Mordecai. Let me remind you that these are real life events. Right. This is not a figment of someone's imagination. And they said, hey, let me write a book of Esther. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna call it Esther. You get my point? This is not a Stan Lee comic book. You get my point? It's made up, you know, fictional. This is real history. You understand? Real history. What did Paul say in Romans 15:4? The things are written aforetime are written for our learning. Right. You understand? That what? That we through comfort of the scriptures might have what? Kramashai. No.
Hope, sir.
Hope. You understand? Now we're gonna keep reading. Keep going.
Khan. Verse 6. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone. For they had showed him to the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus.
Now, not only did they seek to kill Mordecai, right? Now he's made, and he has authority to do this. He can go to the king. He got what we call that pull. He got pull. Is that the term, Crowman Shop? He got pull. Like you've been at the slave a long time. He got pull. Like, nah, don't hire him.
Right,
yeah, right. He got pull on some. Let's kill all them all. Let's get rid of them. It would have been nothing to the king. You understand? Let's kill all the Jews. God's chosen people. Keep going. Even of the people.
Even the people of Mordecai.
You hear that, right? Keep going.
Verse 7. In the first month.
How becoming of an Edomite? You understand? Just want to kill Negroes. They ain't nothing new under the sun. This is an Edomite.
Right.
Keep going.
Come, sir. Verse 7.
Keep going.
In the first month, that is.
The
month. Is it Nisan? Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur. That is the lot before Haman from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month. That is the month Adar.
Right. Keep going.
Verse 8.
They casted Pur, which means lot. It was rolling dice on seeing what the lot would be, on what the decision would be. There was casting lots. Read on.
Verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom. So,
and everywhere that your kingdom excels, all the land you have, sir, there are people known as the Jews. Keep going.
And their laws are diverse from all people.
And see how the Israelites are not the only people here? And their laws are diverse from the Chinese. The Chinese eat rat, cat, and everything that rhyme with bat. You get my point? They eat octopus, frogs, but these brothers of these cats over here, they follow they're the Hebrews. They're Israelites. They claim to be God's chosen people. They have their own laws and they do this, right? Keep going.
Con. Neither keep they the king's laws.
And they don't keep now at this point. He's trying to do what? He's trying to make the king. He's trying to get the king on his side. They don't respect you, king.
Trying to gas him up.
Exactly. They don't respect you, King Xerxes, great Xerxes. They disrespect you, great Xerxes. Are not you like a god, Xerxes? Look at all what you have. Look at the Babylonians are nothing before these Xerxes. And who are these people to not respect you? That's what Esau on right now at this point. Keep going.
Con, sir.
The spirit of Karen. Go ahead.
Right. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom. And their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them.
Right. It is not. There's no profit in these people. So you know what I think we should do? We should get rid of them. Keep going.
Con. Verse 9. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed.
Right.
And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of business.
Ooh, you hear that? What did he just propose to the king? What did he just propose to the king? What did Haman just propose to King Ahasuerus or Xerxes the Great? The Great. It's like it. Just so you Google it. He ain't great to me, but you get the point. What did he just propose? Not to Zod?
Sorry, sir. I'm just walking in, but is this the part where he's? Is this the time period where he's suggesting that he deals with the nation of Israel?
Yes. Okay. And then he offered the king what? Or what was? How did he want to go about it? What did he say, Malakma?
Would be the equivalent of them like putting crack in ghettos and whatnot, like in today's time, at that time.
Okay, I see where you're going, but that's not what I'm looking for. Go ahead, I score.
He offered to exterminate the Jews.
Okay, yes. He said that he would pay the men who do the task 10,000 pieces of silver to go up and kick down our doors and grab our infants by the necks and throw them. You understand? To kill our children and women, and to hang us from our necks on the gallows. That's what Haman wanted to see. That plan was mustering in his heart before he presented it before the king. And as he's laying on his bed, he's imagining the harsh treatment he can place upon the children of Israel. That's what he wants. That's what he wants, all because Mordecai didn't reverence him. See that? Keep going.
Sir. The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 9.
If it please the king.
If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed.
If it pleases the king, right? See how you do, man. Keep going.
Sir.
I got you.
And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to those, to the hands of those that have the charge of the business.
Keep going.
To bring it into the king's treasury.
Keep going.
Verse 10. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee.
Right.
The people also to do with them as it seemeth good to thee.
Ooh-wee. So the king, he was so persuaded at the presentation of Haman. So he's like, you know what? Go ahead. I'm gonna finance it, get how much ever you need, do it however you want to do it. I don't care. Go ahead, Commandant.
So like I was gonna say, with him persuading the king, you know what I'm saying? Haggai knew that Mordecai had
Haman.
What was it?
Haman?
Haman?
You said Haggai.
Okay, so like
No sweat. That's a prophet. Haggai's a prophet.
Haman knew that Mordecai kept laws that were different from the laws of the king. And you know what I mean? And that's why it says in verse what verse did we just read?
That was
12?
I didn't read 12 yet.
So like verse 11, I think.
We read 8. I get what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, come on. So on verse 8, it says that you know what I mean, that you know, that these were people that were scattered. They kept laws that were different from the laws of the king's laws.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he was trying to present like, hey, look, they gonna be disobedient to you, so might as well just get rid of them.
Right.
Right, sir?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, so now from there, now we got the plot of against the children of Israel, right? So now I want you to go to Malachi. Esther 4:1.
Con, sir.
Esther chapter 4 verse 1. Because what happens is Mordecai gets wind of the plot against him and his people. He overhears it. Right? So now let's go to Esther 4:1.
Con. The book of Esther chapter 4 verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done. Keep going. Mordecai rent his clothes.
He rent his clothes. Read on.
And put on sackcloth with ashes. And went out in the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry.
Why he do that?
Because he got word that
he got word he's about to die.
Right.
Not only him, all his family he grew up with, all his people.
Right.
And Mordecai knows that who Israel is. So he goes in the middle of the street and he's letting it out. Go ahead.
So like, sir, when this had about cry, you tell like he was out there blazing?
No, he was crying. You understand what I'm saying? He wasn't street teaching. But he just got word of the devices devised against him and his people. If this plan goes through, there'll be no more, children of Israel. There'll be no more, they're looking to exterminate Israelites. Because Haman wouldn't stop there. The more kingdoms, the more areas that the Persians took under and Haman in town, they're killing Jews. You get my point? Keep going.
Con. Verse 2. And came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate, clothed in sackcloth. Verse 3. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews.
Right. So everybody starting to hear about it. You gotta imagine the brother said, "What's this brother crying about?" He just, man, they about to, hey, man, they about to come down on us. It's like them passing legislation to go kill all the Negroes in San Bernardino. You like, so like you, Most High. You understand? That's what it was in Persia. Go ahead, Malakma. Stop and frisk. Okay, this is stop and don't breathe though. You understand? This is worse. This is stop and frisk is horrible, but this is extermination. This is genocide of a race that Haman wants. I got you, Ashkur. Go ahead.
Con. And fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. Verse 4. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved.
Right. So he got word. He got it to Esther. You see that? And Esther's maids came and told. It's like it. Her maids got it. It got to Esther. Right. Keep going.
Khan. And she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take away his sackcloth from him. But he received it not.
Right. Keep going.
Verse 5. Then called Esther to
Hatak.
For Hatak, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her. And he and gave him a commandment to Mordecai.
Right.
To know what it was and why it was.
Right. Now go to verse 13. Now Esther and Mordecai are in communication. There's a middleman going between them both, and she wants to know why, what's going on. What is this information I'm hearing? Is it true? What do you know? Right? Verse 13.
The book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house.
Right.
More than all the Jews.
Right. What did he just say right there?
It's like you're asking me.
Yeah. What just happened?
Let's see. So in verse 13 it says, then Mordecai commanded to Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews.
What did Mordecai just tell Esther? Go ahead. I'm Kramashak.
So like you saying basically you can't run because you're a Jew too.
Remember, Xerxes ain't aware that she's who her father is and all that. Right? She ain't reveal all that. He don't care. She's bad to him. You know what I mean? Like, but the point is, Mordecai is reminded, okay, you're gonna die too if you don't do something about this. You understand? Like, this is serious, Esther. Right? Keep going.
Verse 14. Yep. Verse 14. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place.
You hear that? Keep going.
But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time at this?
Right. Keep going. Verse
15. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer.
Right. Go tell this to Mordecai. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan and fast ye for me. And neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. So I will go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
Yeah, she said, I'm going to go, because that wasn't custom for the woman to present herself before the king and just request something. You understand? But she said, listen, you got to fast. We got to pray to the Most High God of Israel. And, we're going to pray for the best. But I'm going to do it because, if I die, I die. I'm going to go do it. If I die, I die. You understand? So that was what? A display of what? Courage that Esther had. You understand? Now, from there, go to Esther chapter 5, verse 1.
Come. The book of Esther, chapter 5, verse 1.
Now, Esther, they do their fasting, they do their praying and things like that. And during the fasting, she's thinking of a way on how she can communicate to the king to reverse how can I say it so you can understand? So we can understand, like using today's term, to go against basically what he already done stamped. To go against the legislation and the law they just passed. You get my point? Keep going.
Come. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house.
Right.
Over against the king's house, and then the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
Keep going.
Verse 2. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight.
Right.
And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in the hand.
Keep going.
Was in his hand.
Keep going.
So Esther drew near.
Man, that was a what?
Like the gesture, sir?
Yeah. What was that?
Slightly, if I may, around this time, I know if somebody came into the king's court, the king had to pretty much give the approval whether or not if they can come.
You hear that? Her heart racing.
Oh, sorry. Slightly, if I may, because I know if you didn't get the approval, that they'd kill you.
Yeah. But he gave that justice, and you look like this is real life. You get my point? Keep going.
Come. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter.
Keep going.
Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request?
Mm-hmm.
It shall be given, it shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom.
So the king is now in her mind, like she getting a little comforted because he really rock with me. Even to half the kingdom. Persia was large. Like Persia is beyond, LA, Texas. We talking about, go look up Persia. Who's seen 300?
Oh God.
You see that the Persians and how they move? Hundreds of thousands of them. You get my point? Very wealthy. Go ahead.
Khan. The book of Esther, chapter 5, verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him.
Right. So she okay, so I want to plan a banquet. I want to plan like a big dinner for you, myself, and Haman. Right? All this hard work y'all been doing and the battle you having over there with the Greeks, and let's just have a nice formal dinner. Keep going.
Khan, verse 5. Then the king said, because Haman caused Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther has said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Right.
Verse 6. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is.
Right. So now she's getting ready to ask or let her request be known. Go ahead.
Verse 8. If I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king has said.
Right. So what's going on? What's about to happen? What's about to happen? What did she just set up? Malakma?
She's setting up the banquet to have both of them there.
Right. To have both of them there. It's very wise of Esther. It just took some great thinking. Right? You go and planning and organizing. Now go to verse 9. And Haman was put on notice that he's going to be attending this great feast and / banquet in the king's presence, the king and queen. Keep going.
Khan, the book of Esther, chapter 5, verse 9. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved from him, he was full of indignation.
So he got news he about to be a part of a banquet. He walking in the city gates and everybody reverencing him. He feeling good. Then he looks to his right. He sees Mordecai and he just looks at him with disgust.
Oh God.
Like the thought of the name Mordecai made his stomach turn. You get my point? Go ahead.
Khan. He was full of indignation against Mordecai. Verse 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home.
Why did he refrain himself? Because you know what? I'm gonna kill them all anyway. We setting up these gallows. We're gonna hang all of them by their neck. And then my my anger is going to be appeased. My indignation is going to be appeased. I'm going to be happy. I got you, Mark. Keep going.
Come. Verse 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself.
Right.
And when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. Verse 11. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself. And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Verse 13. Yet all this availeth me nothing.
Right.
So long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
Right.
Keep going, sir.
You hear that, right? Keep going.
Come. Verse 14. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high.
Right. Keep going.
And tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon.
Right. So his wife is saying, since you hate this dude that much, push the issue. You already got the clearance to kill him. But at this banquet, present this idea to the king, Ahasuerus, aka Xerxes. Present the idea of creating gallows. Who knows what a gallows is? What's a gallows? Ask Ward.
Is that like I think it's like a tall pole and there's like a rope hanging on top?
Yeah, you ever watch some old Western movies when they got their hands tied behind their back and they're about to publicly hang someone?
Right.
And they take take the floor from underneath their feet. They put the press of a button, right, so to speak, and they just hang there. Everybody's just watching them hang.
Right.
That's what she's like. You should tell the king that, right? Keep going. He soaking it up. That's an excellent idea. Kissed her on the forehead, right? Keep going.
Then go thou and merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman. Right? And he caused the gallows to be made.
This is the night before the big banquet with the king, Esther the queen, and Haman the heathen. Salaki. Haman the heathen. Coin that. Esther chapter 6, verse 1.
The book of Esther chapter 6, verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep.
Now, on that very night, some far away down the block, Haman the heathen is getting all this information, all these ideas. He's excited. He want to kill us. He want to kill Mordecai. But in Shushan, in the palace of the king, around the same time he's doing all that, the king can't sleep at night. Xerxes can't sleep at night. Now remember what I told you. When you read Genesis, what you see? You see, thus saith the Lord. The Most High, God caused this and God caused that. When you read 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, right? You read these books. Thus saith the Lord did this, and the Lord called to Samuel, and the Lord called him 3 times, and the Lord caused her to be barren. You don't see that in Esther. You don't see the Lord say in Esther. Right?
Right.
Now, here's the point, though. Now, read that first. Esther 6 and 1.
Chapter 6, verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep.
The king couldn't sleep.
And he commanded to bring the book of records of the Chronicles.
So he up. The king is up. He can't sleep. He got this big banquet tomorrow. So he's like, you know what? The thought just comes in his mind. Let me see the record. Let me read the records. Maybe I can read myself to sleep. Someone read these records to me, and so I can try and fall asleep. So I want to hear how great I am. Right? Go ahead.
And they were read before the king.
And they were read before the king. Keep going.
Verse 2.
And in being read, you took over Egypt, my lord. You took over the Babylonians and Nebuchadnezzar in his height of power, your majesty. He just reading, he's just soaking it all up. Right? Keep going.
Come on, sir.
I got you. Keep going.
Verse 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains.
Keep going.
The keepers of the door.
Now, who is Bigthana and Teresh? Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. What happened 4 chapters before this? So in the reading of these records, right? In the reading of these records, he's hearing how great he is and the history and different accounts and stuff, things of importance to the king's life. Then the person who's reading these notes to the king starts to hear something that's he kind of forgot. Right? Keep going.
Come on, sir. Verse 3. And the king said, what honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? So
what he reads is a Jew by the name of Mordecai saved your life. Because these two men, your chamberlains of the door, were seeking to conspire against you, to poison your food, to spike your drink, to cut your throat while you're asleep. Because that was the keeper of the door. They had access. Right. And Mordecai found out, and he got it to the right person, and those two men died. And that's why you hear able at all to hear these records. Right? So the king like, wait a minute, when the hell, when did this happen? And was this man rewarded for his deed? Right? Keep going.
Con.
Go ahead, Oscar, you want to say something?
Oh, Con, it must feel real good hearing that, like about yourself.
You're Oscar here. Oscar, if you're Demetrius, tied. He gonna have his Edomites in the kingdom.
So like you're saying like
thy boots are the fairest, my lord.
But like I'm saying, like for real, like imagine you laying down and telling you took over this whole land.
Yeah, God.
They said he was great, but you killed him.
Yeah.
It's like damn.
Yeah. Go ahead, Malakma.
Like I was gonna say, you see the spirit of these Edomites, like in Haman, like he really thinks he's untouchable, and like you know what I mean, like
who Haman or Xerxes?
Haman.
Yeah.
He thinks he's untouchable and doesn't.
Why does he think he's untouchable? He got men bowing to him.
Oh, God.
You understand? Like he has authority in the Persian Empire given to him from Xerxes. Right? Go ahead. Right. Go ahead, Malakma. You have more?
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying.
No, excellent points. Excellent points. Keep going.
Con, sir. Verse 3. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him.
There is nothing. I'm looking through these records. Oh, well. I don't see anything, sire. Right? I don't see nothing. Nothing was done for him. Xerxes is like, oh, we need to handle this speedily, right? We need to reward this man, right? Now let me show you. Well, hold on, let me see. Where you at? Verse what?
Verse 4, sir.
Verse 4. Keep going. I'm gonna show you.
Come. The book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the king said, who was in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
So Haman, there's sun coming up, whatever, right? He's dressed for the occasion, for the banquet, and he's like, hey, in his mind, he's like, all right, I'm about to present this before the king. I already got the other situation I wanted approved, so I'm gonna get this approved. It's gonna be a good day. I'm gonna eat, feast, go back to my wife Zeresh, right? Keep going.
Come. Verse 5. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in.
Right. Keep going.
Verse 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man who the king delighteth to honor?
Right.
Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king have the to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?
Right. Now, ooh-wee. Verse 6. So Haman came in. You know, Haman. Right? I'm Haman. And the king said unto him, what shall be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his mind, who he talking about me? Right? Keep going, verse 7.
Come on, sir. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor.
Right. So look, you gotta imagine this that. There's guards on the left and the right, holding their staffs, right? Bowls of grapes and exotic fruits on a big table. And the king is he's talking, he's like, what should you do to a man who, deserves a reward? How should you treat a man of great honor? How should you do that? And Haman thinking this is about him. He's like, well, you should do this. Keep reading.
Come on, sir. Verse 8. Let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear.
He should be decked in the finest linen, finest of materials, sir. Keep going.
And the horse that the king rideth upon.
He should have his own horse. Not any horse, but the king's horse. Right? Keep going.
And the crown royal which is set upon his head.
A crown. He should have his own diadem. Read on.
Come. Verse 9. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man with all whom the king delighteth to honor.
Right. The man you delighted to honor, he should be set, sir. He should be good. He should have his choice of any woman he wants. He should have his own land. He should be good. Keep going.
Come. And bring him on horseback through the street of the city.
And the king is listening to him like, Xerxes was known for having this big beard. I like that. Right? Keep going.
Come. And bring him on horseback through the city, through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor.
And so Haman said all that. He's like, that's what you should do. Haman thinking I'm about to ride through the town and be announced publicly on the king's horse, like a parade thrown for me, right? I'm about to be even more famous than I thought, right? Verse 10.
Verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, make haste.
Then the king said to Haman, make haste. He started calling the man and let's do this, right? Keep going.
And take the apparel and the horse as thou hast said.
Take the apparel, get the crown, get the horse, announce it to the people, right? Keep going.
And do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
And his heart dropped, brother. His heart dropped. He's smiling. He's just shocked. I know one of the guards like, ooh. He thought he was talking about him. He was talking about Mordecai the Jew, right? You know what I'm talking about? But the guard got to be serious all the time. But the guard, that one moment, he's like, damn, right? Keep going.
Sir. Verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, that sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken.
And let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Right? Keep going.
Verse 11. Then
and I want you to make sure it happens. Right? Keep going.
Verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city. and proclaim before him. Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor.
When you look at that, Haman was just about to pitch the idea to lynch Mordecai. Right? But the Lord had other plans for Mordecai.
Right.
You understand? Because Mordecai dealt righteously. He was of good reputation. He didn't do anything worthy of death and of dying and being lynched on the gallows for the public eye. You see that? What can you get from that? Look, listen, there are people plotting on you every day. Huh?
Oh, God.
There are people plotting on you when you go to camp. They come out here another Saturday. We gon' right? You don't know what happens to them, right? You don't know what the Lord be defending you from. That's real talk. It's an angel preparing the way for you to get home safe. You understand? You ever get home and you turn on the news, a huge car accident on the 15. You're like, I was just on the. I remember one time I was walking to AMPM. It's a gas station for those at home. Not the best, but it does. It's like, yeah. But the point is, I went in there, I came out, I did my little thing, I couldn't find what I wanted. I came out, and as I'm walking out, I saw like 3 dudes walking in, tuck, like they had heat.
Damn.
And brother, I'm walking out, bro. They stuck up the place. I'm walking out like, yikes. I'm let's do a little speed walk to the car. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Give me the money. Guns out. Everybody in the store, lay down. You know what I mean? This is on the news. This a few years back. It was on the news. But I was just thinking that, like, damn, like, I could have been there. Something could have happened to where I could have been in the store at that time. I could have drove a little faster, could have drove a little slower. But the Lord didn't see for me to be in there. Right. You understand? What the Bible says, Psalms 34:7, the angel of the Lord, what? Encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. You know it's holy angels around you 24/7? There's angels around you, right? You think just because you look in the sky and don't see a chariot glowing red, moving, doing all these fast maneuvers, that an angel ain't around you? You can't see angels all the time, right? You understand? But here's the point. Remember when I mentioned that there's no thus saith the Lord in Esther. It's not. Where we read. You read thus saith the Lord? So when the scribe who was writing Esther, the book of Esther, when he made sure we got the book of Esther, what was he showing us? And what can we learn from that today? What can blacks and Hispanics learn from reading the book of Esther today? There's a little more. What can we learn?
That even when you think the Lord ain't with you, he's with you.
Get him in the hand. Even when, and listen, the Most High ain't gotta, you ain't gotta hear his voice from the sky and I'm with you. You understand? You just gotta know he's there. No, he's the reason why the king couldn't sleep that night.
Right.
And why he just so happened to pull the records to get Mordecai favor. On that night. Not a night before, not a night after. Not where he was like, the plan of Haman went through, and then he like, oh, we just hung him. Nah. You understand? Get Proverbs 16 and 9. Proverbs 16 and 9. Watch this.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9. A man's heart deviseth his way.
A man's heart deviseth his way. Meaning, Haman thinking whatever he want. He think whatever he want to think. He could devise whatever evil devices he want. Keep going.
But the Lord directed his steps.
Go to verse 1.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 1.
No, Proverbs 20 and 22.
Oh, slightly. 20 and 22. 20 and 22. The book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 22.
24.
Oh, slightly. 24.
Yep.
Man's goings are of the Lord.
You hear that? Read it again.
Khan, the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 24. Man's goings are of the Lord.
Man's goings are of the Lord. Jeremiah 10:23. Lord, I know it is thee that directeth my steps. That's what Jeremiah said. It is you who directs my steps. It wasn't by chance that the sheep Moses had just wandered off where the burning bush would be. You get my point? Like, you understand what I'm saying? The depth of what I'm saying. It's not by chance that you turned YouTube on and saw the ISUBK. You get my point? It's not by just random chance that you got your officer's test and you teach in class, that you wearing all black, that you're attending feast days. You get my point? It's no coincidence. I don't want to hear all that. Ain't no such thing as a coincidence. That's the white man. It was a coincidence that he couldn't sleep.
Right.
You understand? It was a coincidence. Right? That ain't a coincidence. That was God Almighty.
Right.
You understand? It was a miracle of God that brother, or not that brother, but that king couldn't sleep that night. Right. It was a miracle of God that you woke up to the truth. Thanks to Yahushua being the ultimate sacrifice, giving him a hand. You understand? So that's very heavy, man. Right? Go ahead and go back to Esther, chapter 7, verse 3.
Come.
So now we read that what's his brother's name? Mordecai is giving his credence for his noble act. Right? Now, let's go. We ain't had a banquet yet. Esther 7:3.
Khan, the book of Esther, chapter 7, verse 3. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king,
this is at the banquet. Haman's at one end of the table. He's upset already. Right? He just, listening to what they got to say. He ruined his whole mood. Right, read.
And if it please the king, let my life be given me as my petition, and my people at my request.
I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you, even if it costs me my life to ask. Right, read.
Khan, verse 4. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed.
And he's looking like, you and your people? Go ahead.
To be slain and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage.
Keep going.
Verse 5. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen.
Well, so see, number one just revealed that she's an Israelite. Right? Remember, she didn't do that. But now she's letting it be known, knowing the risk that can cost her life, exposing that she's a Jew. Right? Keep going.
Who is he?
Oh, and then she lets him know that there's a plan to kill my people. Right? Keep going.
Khan. Who is he and where is he?
Right?
That durst presume in his heart to do so.
Right?
Verse 6.
The king asked, who's trying to kill your people? Who's trying to, cause all this to happen? Who's conspiring against you? Right? Read.
Khan. And
Haman's right here. The king's right here. Esther's right here. Haman's right here. And he's like, damn. Haman's like, damn. This is crazy. Right? Go ahead.
Khan. Verse 6. And Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman.
She said, it's this wicked man right here. And the king just, because look, he said, I'll give you whatever you want, even unto half my kingdom. Right? Xerxes was a real man in history. You get my point? So is Esther. And so is Mordecai. And so is Haman.
Right.
And Haman, he is sweating right now. Go ahead.
So like in the movie Troy, Xerxes was one of the kings, right?
In Troy, Troy was more. Okay.
I heard Xerxes.
Because I sir.
He's in the movie of 300.
Yeah, he's in 300. He's in 300. Troy, I know Troy was more borderline mythological.
Oh.
But you know, he had everything dipped in this magical water except his Achilles. So
that's the one.
You couldn't hurt him at all. You couldn't hit him in his neck, his ribs, nothing. You had to get his Achilles to take him down. You understand? But 300 is based on the Battle of Thermopylae. That's a real event. That's known as the Greco-Persian Wars. That's when that was. Go ahead.
It's a lot of judgment about King Xerxes in that movie, right? They didn't portray him correctly, right? You say he had a beard, and in that movie he's all barefaced and shit.
Hollywood. I mean, the thing with that is they portrayed the right spirit, though.
Oh God.
When you read about him, right, you read his attitude in this. He thought he was like a god.
Right.
You understand? He was puffed up from all that he had. He'd go out on his balcony and see everything he owned. He see all these hundreds of thousands of men. The Persian Empire was known for having one of the largest empires to date during that time.
Right.
You see? So, and we're not talking about shooting guns. We're talking about men skilled in war.
Right.
You understand? So, but keep going, keep reading.
Khan. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Verse 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden.
Right. So what did he do? He got up, didn't say nothing, didn't even look at Haman. Got up, walked towards his balcony and just started thinking. So much to take in. Your wife's a Jew. Your wife's an Israelite. And one of your top men, your wife wants him dead. Your wife wants him dealt with. Right? Keep going.
Khan. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
As the words came out of his mouth, the guards in the room, they covered Haman's face. Carried him out. Keep going.
Khan, verse 9. And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also, the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai.
The gallows he made for Mordecai. Keep going.
Who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Hang him thereon.
And the king said, Hang him on it. Good night. Go to Esther 9 and 18. Get 2-3 more precepts and we're going to close it out. Esther 9 and 18.
9 and 18. Khan. The book of Esther, chapter 9, 18.
When you read, Mordecai takes the position that Haman once had. You understand? Keep going.
Khan. Verse 18. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereon, and on the 14th thereon, and on the 15th day of the same they rested.
Right.
And made it a day of feasting and gladness. Verse 19. Therefore the Jews of the village, villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns, made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting.
That's today. Because we all got news that however it happened, we not dying today. The day we were supposed to die, we're not dying. You understand? And that's what this is all about, brothers. Right? Being in the truth, it's about what ultimately? The reason why you don't get high, the reason why you don't sell crack, the reason why you don't prostitute women, why you don't buy prostitutes, why you don't rape, why you don't sleep with other men's wives, why you don't sleep with the same sex, why you don't gather to swingers and strip clubs and everything lustful, why you don't do those things? Why you don't celebrate Christmas? Why you don't celebrate Valentine's Day? And got your woman some chocolates on Valentine's Day. Why? Why you do that? Why do you do that? Why do you avoid all these things? Malakma?
So that you don't die.
Get that brother head. Yeah. I'm looking for it because I want to live, but why? Romans 6:23, for the wages of sin is what? I score. Death. But the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ, Yahushua Mashiach. It is of no coincidence that you're in this classroom tonight. And let that be motivation for you every day. You're a brother or sister that's learning, never been to a feast day. On the, driving to try and make it to the class. The Most High sees your effort. You might be coming from a far away. The Most High see you checking in online. The Most High see you going to camp, remembering the Sabbath. God sees you in that book. You get my point? You got to live a right. Like Proverbs 15:3, the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the good and the evil. How? It's so heavy. How? Because he saw Haman, what he wanted to do, but he had other plans. He kept the king up at night. You understand? There's no coincidences in here. You got this because God wanted you to have it.
Right.
You got this truth because God wanted you to have this truth. You learned you were an Israelite because God wanted. Am I lying? Get John 6:44. Get John 6:44. God wanted, brothers, God wanted David to be king. He wanted him to be king. It was no coincidence that his profession as at a youth was tending to the sheep. You notice that theme in the Bible? These brothers who lead men at one point led sheep. And what does God refer to his people as? The lost sheep of the house of Israel, Matthew 15:24. Right? Christ said, I am the good shepherd and am known of my sheep. My sheep hear my voice and they follow me. Moses was a shepherd. David was a shepherd. Christ is the shepherd. You know where it said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Christ said, I am the good shepherd. Right? Who lays down his life for the sheep. You understand? There's no coincidence that Joseph and Mary met. That was God's plan. Go ahead.
The book of John, chapter 6, verse 44.
Mm-hmm.
No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him.
Ooh, you hear that? No man can come to me except what?
Except the Father which hath sent me draw him.
Mm-hmm. And what he gonna do? What Christ gonna do?
And I will raise him up at the last day.
What he gonna do with Krab Mashak?
Raise him up at the last day.
Like Lahab.
Raise him up.
Kazak.
Raise him up.
ISUPK.
Raise him
Commander
up.
Junior Hanna.
Raise him up.
When?
At the last day.
You get that, right? And God raised up Mordecai and saved Mordecai, saved the Jews. And guess what? Revelation 12:12 tell you that this man is looking to kill us again.
Right.
He's putting crack in our neighborhoods at an all-time high. He's pushing evil on the media at an all-time high. He wants your daughters to be whores.
Right.
He's exposing paraphernalia, drugs, lustful acts to children, to the youth. Why? To their health and well-being? No, to their destruction.
Right.
You get my point? He's teaching them Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Valentine's Day. They pumping all this garbage into the people, and you don't do none of that. That's a miracle of God. Get the Most High hand. That's a miracle. And this is why we take our job so serious, because I'm going to teach against everything you learn, because everything you learn is false. I'm going to teach you that Christ is a black man. You know why? Because that's in the Bible. And your white Jesus is not. That's a fact. You understand? It's a fact that those people in the land of Israel today are not the real Jews.
That's right.
That we're the real Jews. Like they're celebrating Feast of Purim. They're thinking, no, you're Haman. You're not Mordecai and Esther. You're Haman. You're Haman the heathen. You're the same people that plotted against us. You understand? Just like Haman, he wanted to be the man in the apparel and riding on the king's horse. They think they're the children of Israel, but really, it's us.
Right.
You understand? So that's the whole point. That's the book of Esther. Right? That's what we celebrating when you eat your food, man. Big up to Mordecai. Big up to Esther, but most importantly, big up to the Most High Yahweh in the Hebrew. Give the Most High a hand. Barakatah Yahweh outside. If there's no questions, brothers and sisters about to eat and stuff.